Hello, I'm Van Johnson, Mayor of the City of Savannah, and I officially declare it reading time. Today's book is a great book by the great Dr. Seuss. Did I ever tell you how lucky you are? When I was quite young, quite small for my size, I met an old man in the desert of Dries. And he sang me a song I will never forget. At least, well, I haven't forgotten it yet. He sat in a terribly prickly place, but he sang with a sunny, sweet smile on his face. When you think things are bad, when you feel sour and blue, when you start to get mad, you should do what I do. Just tell yourself, Ducky, you're really quite lucky. Some people are much more, oh, ever so much more, oh, muchly, much more unlucky than you. Be glad that you don't work on the Bungabung Bridge that they're building across Boober Bay at Bum Ridge. It's a troublesome world. All the people who are in it are troubled with troubles almost every minute. You ought to be thankful, a whole heaping lot, for the places and people you're lucky you're not. Just suppose, for example, you lived in Gazate and got caught in that traffic on Zate Highway 8. Or suppose, just for instance, you lived in Jazair with your bedroom up here and your bathroom up there. Suppose, just suppose, you were poor Herbie Hart, who has taken his throne deambulator apart. He never will get it together, I'm sure. He never will know if the gick or the gore fits into the shrucks or the snuck or the snore. Yes, Ducky, you're lucky you're not Herbie Hart, who has taken his thrombulator apart. Think they work you too hard? Think of poor Ali Sard. He has to mow grass in his uncle's backyard. And it's quick growing grass, and it grows as he mows it. The faster he mows it, the faster he grows it. And all that his stingy old uncle will pay for his showing that mower around in that hay is the privileged pay of 2 duclas a day, and Ali can't live on such piffulous pay. So he has to paint flagpoles on Sundays in grooves. How lucky you are you don't live in his shoes. And poor Mr. Bix, every morning at 6, poor Mr. Bix has his boyfriend to fix. It doesn't seem fair, it just doesn't seem right, that his boyfriend just seems to go shump every night. It shumps in a heap, sadly needing repair. Bix figures is due to the local night air. It takes him all day to unshump it, and then the night air comes back and it shumps once again. So don't you feel blue. Don't you get down in the dumps. You're lucky that you don't have a boyfriend that shumps. And while we're at it, consider the schlots, the crumple-horned, web-footed, green-bearded schlots, whose tail is entailed with unsolvable knots. If he isn't muchly more worse off than you, I'll eat my umbrella. That's just what I'll do. And you're lucky indeed you don't ride on a camel. To ride on a camel, you must sit on a whammo. A whammo, you know, is sort of a saddle held on by a button that's known as a faddle. And boy, if your old whammo faddle gets loose, I'm telling you, Ducky, you're going like a goose. And poor Mr. Potter, T crosser, I dotter, he has to cross T's, he has to dot I's in an I and T factory out in Van Nuys. They got it bad. Oh, the jobs people work at out west near Hotch Hotch. There's a Hotch Hotcher bee watcher. His job is to watch, is to keep both eyes on the lazy town bee. A bee that is watched will work harder, you see. Well, he watched and he watched, but in spite of his watch, the bee didn't work any harder, nor watched. So then someone said, our old bee watching man isn't bee watching as hard as he can. He ought to be watched by another Hotch Hotcher. That's what we need, a bee watcher. Well, the bee watcher watched the bee watcher. He didn't watch well, so another Hotch Hotcher had to come in as a watcher. And today, all of the Hotchers who live in Hotch Hotch are watching the watching the watcher who's watching the bee. You're not a Hotch watcher. You're lucky, you see. That's why you got to go to school, young people, so you can read Dr. Seuss. And how fortunate you are. You're not Professor DeBreeze, who has spent the past 32 years, if you please, trying to teach Irish ducks how to read Javanese. And think of the poor, puffing Pooglehorn players who have to parade down the Pooglehorn stairs every morning to wake up the Prince of Pooboken. It's awful how their poogles get broken. And oh, just suppose you were poor Harry Hatto. Try as he will, he can't make any shadow. He thinks that perhaps something is wrong with his jizz. And I think that, by golly, there probably is. And the Brothers Bazoo, the poor Brothers Bazoo, suppose your hair grew like theirs happened to do. You think you're unlucky? I'm telling you, Ducky, some people are muchly, oh, ever so muchly more unlucky than you. And suppose you lived in that forest in France where the average young person just hasn't a chance to escape from the perilous pants-eating plants. But your pants are safe. You're a fortunate guy, and you ought to be shouting, how lucky am I? And speaking of plants, you should be greatly gladish that you're not Farmer Falkenberg's 17th radish. And you're so lucky that you're not Gucky Gown, who lives by himself 90 miles out of town in the ruins of Ronk. Ronk is rather run down. And you're so lucky you're not a left sock left behind by mistake in the cravens of Croc. Thank goodness for all the things you are not. Thank goodness you're not something someone forgot and left all alone in some punkerish place like a rusty tin coat hanger hanging in space. That's why I say, Ducky, don't grumble, don't stew. Some critters are much, oh, ever so much, so muchly much unlucky than you. Wow. You think about that. That's why I say to all of you, Savannah, don't grumble, don't stew. Some people are so much more unlucky than we are. We are a blessed community, and rather than counting things that are not going right in our lives, let us focus on the things that are going right in our lives. Happy birthday, Dr. Seuss, and I declare this reading session over.